We're in the final stretch of the regular season of college basketball. We're just 2 weeks away from postseason tournament starting. Um, God, March Madness is so close. But we are going to see a pivotal time where stocks are going to rise and stocks are going to fall. So, who are some guys that you think that we will see rise up in some of these mock drafts and these big boards that right now might be a little bit slept on?
Well, one of the guys that I think unfortunately has kind of hit a little bit of a slump, if you will, this late in the season is Jett Howard from Michigan. I think this is a guy we all think has a pretty high ceiling, a lot of potential as a scorer and as a shooter. But I mean, ever since he just went off against Nebraska, he's had 12 points on 5 of 14 shooting from the field against Indiana, 4 of 14 shooting with 9 points versus Wisconsin, and then 10 points on 3 of 9 shooting versus their rivals, the Michigan State Spartans. So it has been really tough in the last week or so for Jett Howard. And with Michigan kind of still barely even on the bubble for March Madness, if you will, most of the bracketologies that I've looked at recently don't even have the Wolverines in March Madness. This could be a really tough end of the season for Jett Howard. If he's not going to get a chance to show out in March and maybe boost some of his stock, to go out in the regular season like this where he's just, I don't know if it's just the defenses have clamped up more or if he's just gone cold, but that's a really tough end of the season.
I am by no means a Michigan fan at all, but I want to see Jett Howard play in the tournament just because I feel like he's the type of player where he'll just randomly have like a 30-point game out of nowhere, and it'll be like the probably the easiest 30 points you've ever seen. But I feel like a lot of the issues that Michigan is having is just that they're two of their best players, Dickinson and Howard. It just seems like they don't really play very well with each other. And so that's also kind of why I think like seeing him in the tournament would be kind of interesting because you would just see more of how he plays and just that he's kind of the guy who can take over the game. And Dickinson, he's the kind of player that you do need in the tournament. But at the end of the day, guys like Howard, they're going to be the ones that kind of get you on big runs and kind of take other teams out of games. And if we get to see that on a grand scale, I feel like that would really help his stock. But for me personally, a person that I really want to see do well in this tournament and just that I'm pretty high on in general is Jarace Walker. He's a player who's slowly starting to get a little bit more freedom during conference play. And he's on one of the top teams in the country right now in Houston. And I feel like the thing that's talked about most with his game is his defense, but I feel like there's a lot on his offensive side and offensive capabilities that aren't really shown as much. Like he can really get to his mid-range. He's got good size, and he's like comfortably hitting pull-up jump shots, which is, I feel like, really rare for a big. Jarace Walker is a guy who I find really entertaining, and Houston is a team I'm also optimistic is going to go deep in the tournament because of their coach, and he's just not a guy who ever goes out early. So that's a guy I'm high on.
Yeah, and in March Madness, I mean, a lot of times the veteran-led teams do pretty well, but even though Jarace Walker might be the best player on the team, he doesn't play like a rookie at all. I mean, he's massive. He's super strong. He uses his physicality to his advantage, kind of in the way that Zion Williamson did a little bit. He's not as much of a Skywalker as Zion was, obviously, but I think Jarace Walker, with the way that he's able to score at all three levels, is going to be extremely tough to put out in March Madness. So I think you're right. I think Houston is definitely a team we could see go pretty deep.
I would also love to see a Jarace Walker poster. I don't think we've had like a major one this year, but I could see one happening, like kind of Zion style too, where it just goes baseline, puts his in somebody's face, or excuse me, just dunks all over somebody. So that would be crazy.